The first web piece I did was the Body Missing website. It was done in I began work on it in 1995. I'd been invited, commissioned by Michael Century, who was running a special projects program for ISEA, the Inter-Society for Electronic Arts, and they were having their international annual general meeting in Montreal that year, and that's what I did in response to his invitation. But what I found, as you suggested, is that it was meant for me. It was just, it was like someone being thrown into the water and knowing already how to swim, because I'd already done many multi-layered works with all kinds of interwoven narratives, all kinds of interwoven media, all kinds of interrelated questions that the work posed. But to do this on the web was a thrill. And the first programmer I worked with, James Allen, he's back now in, well, he now lives in Toronto. He was then living in Montreal, and he was a graduate student, and he was assigned to me. And it was just a summer gig, and he thought, you know, who's this little old lady in running shoes that I have to work with? And we began doing very, you know, the scanning and the thising and the thating, and then finally when we had all our material ready to roll, it was like directing any, you know, any kind of shoot that, you know, you're doing now. And I'd say, well, I want these images to open like curtains. He says, well, I don't think you do that. Well, let me see. And eventually he just fell in love with it, because I wasn't working from a template. I wasn't working from a storyboard. It grew organically, and the whole site has grown that way. And I'm told that the experience of exploring it is similar, so that, you know, at the time, most of the sites that I knew of either were like annual reports, corporate sites, or like Mad Magazine with lots of, you know, putrid green and horrible orange. You know, it was, the aesthetics of the web were really bifurcated and not relevant to what I wanted to do. The other thing that I can tell you about this and why it was a work of art and why it worked for me in my practice, a colleague at the University of Toronto who teaches in the graduate program in social work and has done really interesting work on the arts and her discipline, gave the Body Missing website as an assignment. I learned about this afterwards, to her students. And then she set up 2 or 3 viewing stations in the seminar room and asked them in pairs, I guess she had 2 viewing stations, to reconstruct their paths through the website. And she said the differences were so extraordinary, and it, I think, gave her material to consider how people's minds are different from each other, and how their thought processes differ, and how the way they enter the world and perceive is so different. And I don't know the theoretical basis for her doing this, but the experiential evidence I found very moving. And she said, in one instance, a woman couldn't reconstruct her path, and she was very distressed by that. Oh no, I have to find. Now, what I did with that, which was mischievous, with the Institute website, when you go back, you can't always go back to where you came from. So that the navigation bar on the left, that gives you several options. So you might go for the social workers report, you might go for the annual report, you might go for the library, or the, what is it, the dining room, whatever in the Institute. And you go to the next page, and then you want to go back. It's a whole new set of options. So it's constantly disorienting. And some of that I learned from working on the Body Missing piece. But as a medium, it's fine. But I work differently. And I think what I learned from that technician and from other ones since then, programmers that I've worked with, is that they really like precise, unintuitive instructions until they get used to me. And then we have a lot of fun.